You don't need me to tell you this, kid, but your brain is really good at keeping score. But what if one of the reasons you feel like things aren't going well or that you're not good enough is because your brain isn't paying attention to the following things? When you feel like you're not enough and you feel like things aren't going poorly, part of that reason may be because of the fact that your brain is discounting everything that is actually going right. And there may actually very well be more things going right in your life than there is going wrong. And it just takes the right perception shift to be able to get your brain to see that and change how you see the world. Hi, I'm Mike. I've had OCD and anxiety for the past 10 years of my life, and I turned that turmoil into tools and I share them with you. Especially when you struggle with anxiety and depression, your brain puts this filter over things that makes things seem worse than they actually are. Okay, it makes even the minor inconveniences seem like the end of the world, and then things that are pretty serious, it makes them seem even way worse, right? And so it makes it hard to be able to think clearly because you're constantly in this shroud of the world is ending and this problem is it for me, right? So one of the things that you have to remind yourself of is you have to be able to simply be aware that there is a filter, right, over your brain at what you're looking at the moment. That's one of the first steps you need to take at being able to see through that shroud, is that your mind is putting a filter over it, right? If you were wearing glasses that warped the world around you, right, you wouldn't freak out, right, if you put on whatever it is, goggles or a type of glasses that made you see differently, right? You would understand, well, what it is that I'm looking at right now, the reason that things are tilted or the reason that there's a certain amount of light that's letting in is because of the glasses that I'm wearing. Right? So it works the same with your brain. You're not necessarily seeing the world and seeing the problems as they are, but rather you're seeing them as you are, right? You don't see the world and you don't see things as they are, you see them as you are in that moment. So simply bringing your awareness to that can help you to step out of start stepping out of that trap and seeing things in a little more of a clear light. The next thing you want to do is you want to remind yourself of what you're worth, right? Because your brain, as I mentioned, and as you know, is very good at keeping score. But the problem is, it counts your mistakes twice as much as it counts the things that you do right. And it takes awareness and reflection to be able to remind yourself of all the things that you do right and everything you have done right, because your brain will discount that. So you have to remind yourself and really sit and think, okay, I've made these mistakes in the past, I've made these mistakes recently, but what is it that I have done right, even to the smallest degree? And remind yourself of the things you have actually done correctly and actual situations that you have handled correctly as well, right? You're still holding yourself accountable, but you're not overjudging yourself. The key here is you also have to remind yourself of what you bring to the table, of the virtues you bring to the table, of the skills you bring to the table, of the comfort and the support you bring to your friends and family and to people around you, and realize that you really do make a difference. It's cliche, I know, but it is true, right? Your presence does make a difference, and you have to remind yourself of everything that you are in its totality, both everything you do right and wrong, and what it is that you bring to the table to help to remind you and remind your brain, no, wait a minute, there are still plenty of things that I have done right? And you take both the things you have done right with the things you've done wrong. And this is often the case with myself. I would, especially at night, that's a big time for me, and I think for a lot of other people, is where your mistakes, they weigh a little bit extra heavier than they do during the day. And so it's important during that time that you don't push those thoughts away, but you remind yourself that yes, I have made these mistakes, and yes, these are things that I could have done better. However, I'm going to have more chances in the future to correct them, and I also have done a lot of things right along with that, right? So you're not pushing any thoughts away, right? And you're not trying to replace anything, but you're taking yourself in as who you are as a person, man or woman, in your totality of everything of who you are, both everything you've done right, every person that you've impacted positively, and maybe ones that you've made mistakes with, and maybe mistakes you've made with yourself, and taking yourself in completely, right? You give yourself, and I'm sure you've heard of this, but you give yourself the same grace and compassion that you would a friend. You treat yourself like you would a friend. You can ask yourself in that moment, okay, you're getting bombarded with these thoughts, but what would I say to a friend who made these similar mistakes, right? And you go from there. chances are you'd probably give them more grace and compassion than you would yourself. It takes practice, but when you can practice this consistently again and again and again, whether it be at night or during the day, is taking yourself in its totality, right? Even though you have your own mistakes, like, you know what? I made a lot of mistakes, but I still like me, right? I still know that there's plenty of chances to correct them, and there's plenty of things that I'm still doing right, right? And all of that is what you bring to the table as a person. So it just takes that practice. You literally have to practice bringing it to mind to remind yourself, okay, I understand that there's this perception of things are really bad. I've really made these horrible mistakes. However, it's the anxiety filter that's getting placed over this, and there's also plenty of other things that I did right. So basically, your vices do not cancel out your virtues. Okay, all of the things you've done wrong do not cancel out all of the things that you have done right, right? And when you take everything together, it really helps to remind yourself you really are worth more than you think you are, right? Look, life doesn't always give us answers, okay? But it gives us these opportunities, and it gives us these moments that we can build ourselves up, build tools, and build lighthouses that we can use later on down the life. That's later on down in life, and that's what this channel is all about. So if that interests you, hit that subscribe button. I post one video a week that gives easy to follow, pragmatic advice that you can use for your mental health, anxiety, and life in general over the course of your days, weeks, years, and things and tips that have helped me. I share them with you. Talk to you on the next one. This kid on his dirt bike, bro. Look, I get it. It's a beautiful day. But it literally felt like he had binoculars and he hit the record button and he zooms by on the dirt bike. Man, I mean, I would be too. I mean, the weather's great, but my gosh, like you think, like they have it like synced to whenever you're going to hit record.